Hello, hello, hi, gigpreneur. What is going on? Welcome. Happy Friday. In hopes that you squeezed more out of your day than the day squeezed out of you. My name is Sean Azimi, and I help folks just like myself, just like you, who with a job to start an online side gig and use social media to grow it. What's up? If that is you, drop the word me in the comments, and I got you. I get back with you very soon, maybe right after this. So, what's going on? Welcome. Hey, decent hour, I might add. Thank you very much. It's been a while since I've gone live at a decent hour, and I really like doing that very more often. So look for that. We are live on all channels: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And if you are joining me from any of these platforms, would be nice if you drop a little comment so I know where you are and who you are and all that good stuff. So I got an interesting one for you tonight. I got one of those that makes you think tonight. How about that? How about that? If you like to think once in a while, like really think, um, drop a thinking emoji in the comments. It'd be fun. Let's go. Let's play along. So, have you ever thought that maybe you weren't ever supposed to compare yourself with anybody else? Have you ever thought about that? Now, it when two people, three people are next to each other, or a crowd is going on, you're gonna compare everybody in the crowd. Hopefully you don't, but it's we do. And but have you ever thought you weren't supposed to compare yourself with other people? Have you ever thought about that? I'm gonna give you something to think about. Back in the day, um, people had an idea of how they looked. Okay, how it was by when they looked in the water, when they looked in a river, if you would. That's how they could see their own reflection. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it's what they could see of themselves, right? Now, at the same time, maybe you can think of it as there was a water filter, you know, over what it actually looked. So you would look at yourself in the water and you'd be like, okay, that's how I look, right? Because then there can before I drop that, that's the only way. The only way people were comparing is people actually would look at you and they would see you very differently than the way you see yourself in the water, right? Because they see the actual you. Now, here's the thought. Then comes a mirror. A mirror. So now you got something that can reflect the details. They can show you exactly how you look like. Then there comes pictures. Then we got social media, and then we got all these apps, and then we got AI that does all these crazy things to how we actually look. Now, I want you to think about this and really answer yourself this. Back in the day when there was no mirrors, no pictures, no filters, no social media, no AI apps, none of that stuff, people looked in each other's characters and doings versus how they looked, because they really didn't have a clear idea how they looked themselves. So that was not one of the things they compared or they used to say, oh, okay, maybe that's a good person. That's not a good person. So the way they measured it, and it was a true measurement, it wasn't really a judgment. It was but what you were doing, but your character, by how you showed up in the marketplace, in the neighborhood, with everybody. It's your actions and your responses and the way you treated people and the way you showed up that really determined your looks, how you look to somebody. It wasn't like now where you have 18,000 AI apps and 18,000 filters, and you never know what the person looks like. And then you see them in person, they still don't look like that because when they remove the makeup, it's like a whole different person now, right? So we started to really compare ourselves with other people when this whole mirror thing showed up, because that's when we look at ourselves, we're like, aha, that's how I really look. And you start to look at the details and the flaws of yourself. See, back then, nobody looked at the details and the flaws of you or themselves. Why? Because they couldn't see it. But now, because we can absolutely pick out the details, the flaws, the crevices, the wrinkles, all the little things, now we get to what? Be picky. We get to be comparing ourselves with everybody else. This filter on that person looks better. I got to do this. This injection looks better on that person. I got to do this. Now all this is happening, and it's really because we started to really compare ourselves with other people. It's when we started to notice our own flaws and the details. I'm asking you to think about this. We've always had flaws and details and wrinkles and crevices. You know what? Nobody really thought about it because it wasn't a really big deal. What meant was the character of a person. What meant was how you treat somebody. What was important is how do you show up as a person? What I often refer to as your MVPs, your morals, your values, your principles. I often say, you hear me say this, if it's your first time to my life, hopefully it's not going to be your last time. But if you're a vet to my lives, you've heard me say this many times. Your MVPs, your morals, your values, your principles. You want to be very particular about which one you pick and drop in each column for yourself. You're like, oh, I like this characteristic. I'm going to drop it in my moral column. Now, when you're that particular about picking something and holding on to it, then you got to be extremely tight and protective of your MVPs, because they are going to be tested, they're going to be shaken, but you got to stick to them, right? So I'm asking you to kind of maybe go back to the old days and look at people not by the way they look, how much collagen they're taking, what kind of injections they're doing, what kind of filters they're using. I'm asking you to go beyond that, go deeper than that, and really, really, really look at someone's character, their MVPs, their morals, values, their morals, values, principles. And with that, see how they show up, how they treat everybody, how they treat the poor, how do they talk about people when they're not in the room. Like the basics. and decide for yourself if you want to have that person in your circle. So, with that, hopefully, you guys got some love, some inspiration, some value. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the prayers. I got a bunch of chat from folks praying for my mom, myself. I appreciate you, and thank you. And this week was absolutely crazy. I don't know. I felt like I went to Mars and came back like real quick. I don't even know what happened. And so I know I started doing skits and then I didn't, you know. And the thing is with my skits, the reason I'll leave you this. Lana, hopefully you circle back, watch the replay. I think you will enjoy it because I'm about to sign this off. But I'll share this thought with you with my skits because I get so many things from people, comments and responses that they really feel like my skits. It's because I can put myself in that mood. Now, if I'm not in the mood of singing, dancing, like joking and this and that, I just won't do a skit, right? Unless I don't have time. But I don't make myself. You know what I mean? So whatever you see, it's what I feel. So with that, again, hopefully you guys got some love, some inspiration, some value. I appreciate you. Drop your thoughts, your comments, your feedback below. Let this feed grow. If you feel like somebody needs to hear this, tag them to this. Let's go. Tag them, share it. And I am Sean Azimi, and I help folks with a job to start a side gig online and use social media to grow it. If that is you, drop the word me in the comments. I got you after this. And with that, I am signing off until tomorrow when we do it all over again. Much love.